Welcome to the Website Investor. I'm Jeff Hunt, and today we're going to be talking about whether you should buy big or small with your first website purchase. Just to cut to the chase, the answer to whether a big website is better than a small one is very clearly that bigger, meaning more high quality, probably a higher level of investment required, increases your probability of success. So we'll just put that aside. Big has more likelihood of success than small. But that being said, investing in anything, whether it's online businesses or any other kind of investment, is not simply a mental, logical game. There's also a really important psychological component to it. So when people ask me whether they should buy big or small on their first site, there are definitely some reasons to buy small. And related to that psychological question is the first thing, which is buying small allows you to build confidence that you may not have. Now, we lack confidence typically because of fear of the unknown. There's a lot of things that we may not know the first time we get into online business. Even the transaction process, how do I find a website? How do I evaluate it? How do I step through the acquisition process? And then what do I need to do to operate it? All of those have within them unknowns. So going through that process the first time can make some hidden things known to you, can increase your confidence level, and that can be really important. The second thing is that it's kind of a try to buy scenario where if you buy a website and operate it, it exposes you to what it means to be a website owner, what kinds of tasks you have to do, what the emphasis are, what skills are required, and all of the things that you might expect out of an online business, realizing which of those are legitimate and valuable to you personally and which are not. So if you may not have any idea what it would be like to own a website depending on what your career experience is so far. So try to buy is also an important criteria. Now, one of the things in the third place that people think about quickly when they're asking big versus small, big investment versus small investment, of course, is the capital that you put at risk. And very clearly, if you buy small, you put less capital at risk. But think about it this way. Even though there's less capital at risk, it doesn't mean that buying small gives you an overall lower risk profile. In fact, if you do risk analysis, you know that you take the probability of success times the amount to be lost or gained to determine, overall whether it's a good decision or not from a risk perspective. And frankly, when you buy smaller, you're buying more risky assets. They're usually younger, they haven't withstood the test of time or competition or changes in the environment or technology, and so they're more risky. So sure, overall, you may be risking less capital, but it doesn't mean that your probability of success is greater buying small. In fact, it's almost always lower buying small than buying big. So risking capital is certainly one thing that you should think about, but don't assume that you're going to be more successful with a smaller site. You probably won't be. And then finally, people think about education. And if I asked you, you may have said, well, education is really the first thing. What you mean is that you believe you can leverage what you learn through the ownership of a small website against what you would need to know for ownership of a big website. And of course, that's very legitimate, and certainly there are things that you will learn buying and operating a smaller site that you can use when you buy a bigger site, but don't overestimate that education potential. You'll learn a few things, but a lot of things that you would learn, you're going to learn anyway, and the things that you learn on the small site are much more dependent on the kind of niche the small site is in, the business model that it uses, its particular problems that you have to solve. And a lot of those things are going to be completely different for any other site you might buy, whether it's another small one or a bigger one. So there is value in it, in that educationally, but really the bigger value is psychological, like I explained earlier. Like if you have confidence in a lot of those areas, or you have confidence in the process, your research ability, your problem-solving ability, the application of your skills to new problems, those kind of things, then you may want to just go ahead and buy big from the very beginning. It kind of reflects your commitment to getting into online business or your confidence level. If not, and that's not a problem. It's not in any way demeaning to have, lack of confidence in a particular area where there are things that you don't know. In fact, that's actually a nice thing to have. But if you lack confidence, sometimes it's better to buy small and learn about that area, so that, because knowledge decreases risk, knowledge increases confidence. So that's kind of the criteria. I have clients who buy in stepwise fashion. They might buy very small, where there's limited or no expectation for return on a very small investment, and it's purely for experience and education. And then they might buy a medium size on their way to buying a big investment. And other clients who, although they've never owned an online business before, they're quite confident about how they would go about learning and operating and taking over a new business. And so for them, it actually makes a lot of sense to go ahead and just jump in and make a big investment into a site that meets their lifestyle objectives, whatever that might be. So that's what I have for you on this question of, on your first website, should you buy big or small? That's it for the website Investor Today. Go to flipminds.com/today for tools and resources for your online business, and I'll see you next time.